Okay, so we're going to continue Hilchos Guf Pei Zayin. Speak about Sif Yud. I don't know if we'll have time for the Aleph, but here we're going to be dealing with again Royo Machmas Tashmish, Royo Dam Machmas Tashmish, a woman that sees blood every time met with her husband. This is part of the problem that is discussed in Sif Pei Zayin. It's a very serious problem if it does occur, and we're going to head towards the Sif very soon of what the ultimate solution is. And, even though we discussed options of what she can do to heal herself from it, if no healing does occur, she's going to be headed for divorce. As we're going to see in the Mechaber, it says it very clearly that unless there is some way out of it medically, this is her problem, and it's a real serious problem. And we're going to be getting into a lot more complicated issues. This is complicated in itself, but this is rare. More complicated issues which are more common is spotting. Women that spot a lot, could be because of medication that they take or other reasons, which presents a similar problem. And even if she's not Roya Machmas Tashmish, she ends up going to the mikveh very often, and there's not that many days that are clean. Continue to be married, but it could present another type of problem between the husband and wife. Obviously, they cannot consummate the marriage. So there are all sorts of issues, and we're not even talking about Shalom Bayis yet, which is the biggest issue of all, when the two can't get along. So we're talking about Baruch Hashem that they can get along just fine, but there is external problems. Now, a woman could be completely okay when it comes to machzor, her period, but she could have, of course, other medical issues. The man could have medical issues. There are times where a man is prohibited with his wife as a result of certain accidents to that organ. You know, that's the case with Tzua Dako and Krus Shafcha, when the organ becomes severed, crushed, as a result of a disease, chemotherapy and the like. And maybe we'll talk about it sometime. There is a big machloket as to what constitutes the Adam and the Shamayim in that. What constitutes if something happened to him or through man-made, or was he born with it? In other words, a man cannot live with a wife. A Jewish man cannot marry a Jewish woman if he's unfit to be a man. And that could happen in the marriage already. He started off fine, and somewhere along the line, inactive. And of course, that could present a problem halachically. Not just that the facts are that it's going to be a problem, but halachically, he may not be able to remain with a Jewish woman. So there are, of course, options for him too. But that's a whole different sugya, but maybe another time we'll get into that. So for those who say, oh, it's not fair, it's always the woman's fault, no, not exactly so. You know, it could be sometimes that it's the man's weak or some issue that he has that causes. All right, in Sif Yud, I'll just review quickly Sif Tes. In Sif Tes, we had a very unusual case where we wanted to if a woman could heal herself automatically by somebody scaring her. It could be that as a result of the internal problem that she has, it could be that some things make it go away, other than medication. And one scenario that the Gemara brings down is if chidua, in other words, if somebody scared her, and as a result of the scaring, some large chunk of blood came out, and we see venitrapet, and we see that she somehow got cured. She no longer has the problem of the dam machmas tashmish. Muteret lebala, then she can be permissible to be with her husband, because we assume that whatever problem she had before went away through that scare. Obviously, if she went back to seeing because of intimacy, seeing blood at that time, even one time, then then we know for sure she hasn't been healed. And Mechaber just says, even though I just told you something that may have worked in the past and may still work, but we don't use this to be matir, to permit a woman to go back to her husband. If she has already become asur, we say she's asur, unless she does other examination. We've talked about the bdika shvoferes, that's still an option, plus marriage to another man or a third man. Sometimes it's that particular man where she has the trouble with, but it could be with a second husband, third husband, it could be the problems will go away. So she still has hope. So Mechaber just told us that this particular refuah is not recommended today. However, it may work. And in the event somebody did try it, In other words, if she did try it, in other words, if it happened that somebody's scared and she somehow miraculously recovered, then we're not going to force them to get a divorce. If it happened, it happened. But to go ahead and try to hire somebody to scare her, we're not going to do that. Even though it could be that certain things will help her.
And when you say scare within Disneyland,
that's a good question. You know,
is that entertainment?
Yeah, but that she knows she will become scared. So no, it may not work. Yeah.
How about these wrong people?
Yeah, but you know, there are all kinds of medications. To use a scare tactic may not be that necessary. It's just that what happens if somehow somebody did it to her, intentionally or unintentionally, and we saw that she recovered, then that's what Mikvaot says, b'diavad, it's fine. But we don't rely on this, yeah.
My question is, if vice versa, because she has this
problem, yeah.
Marry somebody else.
That is because sometimes we assume, we don't really know 100% for certain what's causing this. We spoke about that the Aruch HaShulchan's opinions that perhaps this is some sort of illness in her body. There are times that a woman sees dam chimud. Chimud is excitement. It could be more than just excitement. Passion. And that may fit a little bit into the deceit that we're going to cover now. So we don't know what exactly brings it about. Especially that we see it recurring exactly at that time that she's involved with her husband. It's not the regular period. She just had it. She's over it. Now, we did go through quite a few halachas of makos. There's a bruise who was injured there. She may not even be aware of it. So there are ways, and we went through somewhat of a process of elimination, that we can come to exclude that if we somehow have enough evidence, circumstantial evidence. It could be coming from a makkah and not coming from a core, from the place where the blood. Then, of course, assume that it's from there and not from and she's just bleeding from there. So the option of marrying a second man or third man is a lenience, a kula, the Chachamim gave, because they said it's very possible that the union of this man and this woman produces it because of biology. It could be that another man, somehow the effects, the union of that other man with this woman will not be as rough. I'm trying to be a little tactful here.
There's someone who's boring.
Well, I don't know about boring. Yeah, no, it has to do with the physical. Not just the physical encounter, the physics behind the actual union. It could be that just men are different. Not all men are created equal for this. Yeah, in other words, they somehow behave differently. So that was one explanation why the Chachamim were lenient in allowing for this possibility. It's sad that the first husband has to divorce. But the woman still has hope that she will marry and have a normal life with the second or third. After which, there's an additional leniency of Dika Shvoferes, that they insert a tube. What's exactly causing this? And if the tube doesn't do anything, she's clean, she's cured. In other words, there are ways to treat this, to figure out if she will have this problem forever, or it could be just a temporary situation with a particular man or a particular situation that she's in.
The second, he knows what he's getting into.
Well, obviously, yeah, he should be. Anyway, I don't hear too many cases like that, where a woman is being told, well, get divorced, and now try a second husband, a third husband. But these halachas are important because we see that the Chachamim went out of their way in this particular case to try to help this woman and not to give up hope. And tefillah is, of course, always something that we should not forget about. And it's just that what most people forget, this is another little I talk about, is that whenever these things do happen, major things that disrupt the couple's life, whether a regular illness or something like this, it's min hashamayim. Don't think that this is something that just happened by, the best example for this is a woman who's married to a Kohen who was raped. The woman was raped. They have to get divorced. She was raped against her will. She's married to a Kohen. A Kohen cannot be. They love each other. There's nothing we can do. It's sad. But so is an accident. The husband got into a terrible accident. He's chas v'shalom, very, very injured as a result. And she has to live with this. She doesn't have to, but if she loves him, she will. Right? What's that? So a lot of these things, that's one way of looking at it. Nonetheless, we need to learn the halachas as, what does the halacha suggest? Is there any way that we can be lenient? In this case, we try to look for leniency because we want to do everything we can to avoid separating the husband. All right, anyway, in Seif Yud, we're going to be seeing a combination. It's not just Roya Machmas Tashmish, it's Roya Machmas Tashmish Dafka after her mikveh night. So I'm going to read it inside and we'll see. Haroya Dam B'Shas Tashmish, a woman who sees dam when she's with her husband, Muteret L'Shamesh Pam Shenit, she's allowed to be again with her husband the second time when she becomes clean. Mio, however, Mechash Chayshinan Chada Zimna Achari Yoso. We're, however, going to be concerned the first time around. We're going to be concerned that the first time around that whatever she did the first time may happen again the second time. So the Mechaber is going to explain. Let's say, take an example. Royal Machmas Tashmish by itself once, nothing happened, right? She's allowed up to 3 times. But what's this Mechash Chayshinan? Let's say she saw once or twice even, not 3. In the night of her tefillah, that night that she went to the mikveh, somehow, just that night, she has this problem. So here we're dealing with a combination of 2 factors that may be to the damach tashmish. Not just the tashmish, but it could be the leil tefillah itself. It's that night. All right, so we have a time frame, and we have a certain action that triggers this dam. Kshetagiyah tefillah acheres, next tefillah comes, tzricha lifra, she has to stay away, because we're choishesh. She doesn't have here anything kavua yet, but we're choishesh that it may happen again. Remember, there hasn't happened 3 times, so she's not asura, but we're chayshinan. So tzricha lifrosh that next tefillah whenever it is. So tzricha lifrosh leil shel tefilloso, ve'ein tzorech lifrosh leil shel tefillah shlishi. In other words, once she separated herself one time in the night of the tefillah, she wasn't with her husband that night. The next time around, the next leil tefillah, if nothing happened in the first leil tefillah, in other words, that she was away, she separated from her husband, she can go back to being with her husband. Ve'ein tzorech lifrosh leil shel tefillah shlishis. Doesn't have to separate himself the night of the tefillah shlishis. The kol midah de lo kova vesed lo chay shel achad azim. As long as there's no kviut here, it did not happen 3. There's no real vesed here. Vesed meaning period that has established itself, that's taken root. She has the chashash once. Once meaning she saw it happen on that tefillah. Oh, well, I better be careful the following night. The tefillah, maybe it's a combination of the 2 that triggers it. And therefore, if that night they're not together, and the following time, when they are together in the Leil Tefillah, the following night they can be together. If nothing happened that night, they were not together. In other words, they stayed away one time Leil Tefillah, and that basically said, okay, it was a freak accident. In other words, it's not a problem that happens as a result of the Leil Tefillah and the Tashmir. Because otherwise, it could possibly be that there are combinations of factors that produce something like that, and we're concerned. As we will see, it could also be not necessarily Leil Tefillah, it could be a certain amount of time. In Seif Yud Aleph, you have a situation where a woman sees Tashmish every 6 months. Leil Tefillah. Well, actually, not necessarily Leil Tefillah. Every 6 months, the Tashmish, at that time, there's going to be blood. It could be there's such a thing. There's a clock in this body, and somehow the clock goes off at a certain time. Not only on a regular basis once a month, but as a result of certain things that trigger it. Flights on an airplane, exercise can trigger it, certain pressures can trigger it. And there is certain days of the month that can bring it about too, which is of course more related to the Veset, the regular Veset. Is it a certain amount of time that elapsed in the day of the month, which we even haven't gotten to. And that's really one of the most important areas of Hilchos, is how do you establish a Veset, Kavua or Sheina Kavua, depending on how often it recurs, what is exactly make recur. Is it a number of days that have elapsed, every 28? Or is it sometimes 27, 28, right? Or is it a certain day of the month, the 5th day of every month? That's when she gets. Then there's other kinds of combinations. Every time she gets it, she's just having a hiccup. Hiccups recurring, a lot of hiccups all of a sudden. Temperature goes, whatever, all kinds of symptoms. Is it hives on the body? Is that what it's called? Something that she feels in her skin. It could be all of these. These are combinations of triggers that bring about a vessel, and they can be used. They are indicators. And sometimes they can be very helpful, because if somebody has that, he may know it's coming. It hasn't come yet, but it's coming. And that, of course, can be like an alarm clock to tell him, stay put. Whereas if you don't have those alarm clocks, you have to use your wife's calendar. You have to figure out when she's expecting it. Make sure to stay away at a certain time. But if she's lucky and she has these indicators, that may be a little bit helpful. All right. So anyway, here, in this Eve, there's several opinions on how to interpret the Mechaber and what exactly happens. And then we're going to see the Ramah inside. The Ramah brings another example of a woman who sees blood after Niddah, after giving. Now we know that is quite common. A woman can be bleeding for several weeks after a normal birth, not a C-section. And as a result of that, she doesn't end up going to the mikveh for quite a bit. She's completely stopped bleeding. Even though there's a difference between a boy and a girl, according to, you wouldn't have had a boy or a girl, as far as the amount of time. Today, it's almost not relevant. It's going to be several weeks, which will cover even the maximum amount of time for the girl, which is 14 days versus 7 days for a boy, of unclean days that she would have to wait. So today, the boy-girl is not so much of a difference, but we will see we will see B'ezrat Hashem, a very interesting shach about that has to do with Niddah, giving birth, the time that she see machmas tashmish after Niddah, after birth, which of course has its own leniencies. The birth in itself is painful. It does all kinds of things to the body. There may be all kinds of things going on in the body that are typical and are not necessarily due to the tashmish itself. So we may have other reasons to be matir. All right, we'll get to that soon. Okay, so the way we learn the mechaber here, according to most achronim, we're talking about the mechaber's scenario is Leil Tevila, or the following day, like some want to say. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Leil Tevila. It could be she went to the mikveh, and it was the following day that this happened. Either way, we're talking about a combination of two things, Tashmish and Leil Tevila. And I did see some say that the reason why this could happen is maybe because of her chimud. Maybe she's looking forward, she's so excited, that maybe this happens. Right now, the reason is not important. Why does this happen? All we know is that it's coming from the makor, it's machmas the tashmish, so the tashmish, of course, is also involved, and she would be tmeya. There's no question about it. There's no makkah here. So in other words, there's no question that she's tmeya. Just now we're concerned, well, what about next time? What's going to happen from now on? We know she has to go to the mikveh again for this. So this is all for sure. But now, the mechaber was mechadesh, the din of chosheshin. In other words, right now we're not saying they can't live together. We're just chosheshin once. And therefore they have to stay apart because of the chash on the next Leil Tevila. That's all it is. And if they stood apart, if they stood away from each other, and she did not see on the next Leil Tevila, she's muteres in the following Tevila. So the big question that they ask you, the Achronim asks the question, all right, if this is just like any other potential vessel, which is based on a combination vessel, Tashmish and Tevila, why is it enough for her not to see the next Leil Tevila? In order to undo something, what would you need? To have exactly the same thing happen again. She was with her husband. It was the Leil Tevila. And nothing happened, then it's okay. Here the Mechaber didn't say that. The Mechaber just says, as long as you didn't see anything on the Leil Tevila, which seems to be implying like some want to be mefarish in the Mechaber, that there was never Tashmish. In other words, it was just, she saw blood in the Leil Tevila. And that makes sense. She doesn't see blood the next Leil Tevila. But Pashup Pshat, the way most Achronim learn over here, we're talking about that there was Tashmish, it was Leil Tevila, and the suggestion, the recommendation is that they stay away one Leil Tevila. She did not see. It's good enough. Not see. But how do you know that that's a test? A real test would be after they were together, just like the first time, and they did not see anything, then. So that's one of the questions that's raised over here. So the Chavas Das wants to say that we are talking about that Avra v'Shimshon. He wants to say, not everybody holds like him, that she in fact was with her husband even though she wasn't supposed to. Otherwise, he says she would always be asura, even from one time, the Leil Tevila. So he says, Avra v'shimsha. Most Achronim say it's enough she did not see. Why is it enough that she see? Because they go like there's a shitas of is it a rivet? Let's see here. Yeah, the shitas a rivet. The veset that is murkav, veset that consists of a combination of two factors, can only be established after several times three times, not just from once. For you, in other words, then you would have to undo it in the proper way. But this was never established several times. So therefore, if one time went by, she didn't see, it's sufficient to eliminate this chashash. Another important point that the Chavas Da'as says, I think a lot of Achronim hold, remember when we learned about Roya Machmas Tashmish, that it has to be in a very short time afterwards, like within a couple minutes? Here the Chavas Da'as says, here Leil Tvila, even if it was a whole night, she saw it later on, several hours later, we still attribute it to the Leil Tvila and Machmas Tashmish. Here we're going to be machmer, that to be choishish next time. We're not going to say, well, if she didn't see it within 2-3 minutes, that's it. Right, of the tashmish, right.
So not feel.
Right. So whereas we learned Roya Machmas Tashmish means it has to be, for us to have a problem with this woman's blood because of the tashmish, it has to be that the blood was noticeable within a few minutes. Here he says it doesn't have to be within. If throughout the night somehow she's bleeding, we can attribute it possibly to the Tvila and Roya Machmas Tashmish, enough for us to be choishish. In other words, the chashash you can have even if it's several hours later. Okay, that's an interesting point because it's a chumrah, but in the end it's only a chashash anyway. That's what he said. I saw in the Sefer Badei HaShulchan, he gives a very interesting explanation as to why here, in the case of Roya Dam B'Shas Tashmish in the Leil Tevila, why aren't we choishish like all the other vestas that we have in Siman Kuf Pei Tes? That she is even asura just with once, on that night, that is. That we see later on in Siman Kuf Pei Tes, where he discusses the different kinds of estes, that once you've noticed a certain trend, and many trends, of course, happen at the very least 2 times. You have it once, and then you have another one, right? So you see, well, interesting, right? Same things that she did brought about. So once you've seen something happen, that you see the consistency, or you see the connection between them, then you're choishish just for even once. She's also on that particular day, or if that particular event happens. So the Badei HaShulchan says, why is this one more lenient, that we don't follow the same rules as we do in Kuf Pei Tes, that she's also on that one, at least on that Leil Tvila, she should be usher. We're not saying she shouldn't be usher the other nights. He says, what is exactly the difference? That's his question. He explains this seif by comparing this to the other ones, in other words, and he says, what is the difference? So he says like this, according to the Chavas Da'as, the Chacham did not want to be machmir so much over here, because otherwise she would be asura to be with her husband forever. If we would say every time she goes to the mikveh, she sees Machmas Tashmish, when can she be with her husband? Every time the mikveh, Machmas Tashmish, then she would always be asura. So they did not want to be choishish here, he says, so much, and to answer her for the first time this happens. In other words, that we see a trend. In other words, we give her a chance 3 times. Roya Machmas Tashmish, remember, is 3 times. We're not even talking, even without Leil Tevila, just Roya Machmas Tashmish. So the Chavas Da'as says here, we didn't want to be machmer so much. Yeah, I saw Chochmas Sodom also over here, that she may have to be even with the Yom HaChodesh, if it happens in a certain month, a certain day of the month, and Machmas Tashmish, that she always has to be concerned that perhaps it's the day, that particular day, that's causing it. Anyway, I didn't see everybody say that, but that was just the Chochmas Sodom. Alright, so here we were choishish that it may come back. So as long as she was once not with her husband, the following Leil Tevila, she can be with her husband. Now let's see the Ramah. ואם ראה עשו גימול פעמים בכל פעם בביאה ראשונה שאחת תפילוסו, אסור לו לבעלו. And if she saw 3 times בביאה ראשונה שאחת תפילוסו, in the first be after the tefillah, אסור לו לבעלו, she can no longer be with her husband. כאילו ראה עשו גימול פעמים רצופים, as though she saw 3 times straight. שראי אפשר לה לטבול ולשמש עמו, because in reality, technically she cannot go to the tefillah and be with her husband. שהרי רואה כל פעם אחר תפילוסו. So if it happened to her 3 times, she's a surah for her husband. Okay? Now, And here you have a whole machlokas in how to understand this. Taz, I think the Shach. What's the chiddush here? What is the chiddush here if a woman sees 3 times on 3 nights of tefillah? Obviously, this is supposedly 3 times when it's not in tefillah that she saw, that she's roy machmas tashmish, and that's it. It's 3 times. What's this different? What's the Ramah making a chiddush here, telling us a new halacha here that if she saw 3 times in the bir rishon achar tfilos asuro lebalo ki ilu rasa gimel pamim retzufim sharai efshar lo litvo, she anyway cannot go to tefillah and be meshamesh with, because every time sharai roya kol pam achar tfiloso. So what's the chiddush? We know that if it's 3 times, it's 3 times. Is he adding anything here? So the Taz wants to say that what the chiddush is that even though they were intimate in between, they were not supposed to, and nothing happened. The days in between. And it's only the Leil Tevila, still, the Ramah wants to say, no, that those days, according to the Taz, are not going to help. How could she be? She was Be'isur, according to one explanation.
In other words, that this is what the Ramah means.
Yeah, that's the Taz understanding. Otherwise, what is he trying to be mechadish? And then the question is, how was she with her husband? And that is also machlokes. I think the Shach would say, or some would say, that it is possible for her to have been in between with her husband because the dam of the tvilo after the dam, machmas tashmish, is not the same as the tvilo machmas the veset. In other words, going to the mikveh after a veset may produce this. It doesn't mean that going to the mikveh after having seen the dam, machmas tashmish, will also bring this about. How could she ever be clean and be with her husband and not see blood? Right? What is the Taz saying over here? The Taz is saying that the chiddush of the Ramah is what? Even though they may have been in between days, that she was fine. How could there be in between days? So one explanation is that those in between days are possible because when she goes to the mikveh after seeing blood, not after a period, she may be okay. It's only after the tefillah of a veset that she has this problem. So what's the Ramah saying? It won't help her. In other words, the point here that the Taz is trying to say is that she saw this 3 times in a row, that's it. Even though she did it be'isur, she somehow got, or not be'isur, she did it okay in such a way where it was possible for her not to see. You see, she doesn't see machmas tashmish. Still, that's what the Taz wants to say. But that's not so pashut. It's not the pashut shot in the Ramah. That's the way he interpreted it. What?
So if it's not, what's the Ramah?
Oh, the Ramah is saying slightly pashut it in. What? The Ramah? No, I mean, the Ramah is, yeah, you could say that. The Ramah is being machmir and telling us that 3 times constitute 3 times as though they happen consecutively, one after another. On which the Taz seems to be saying, wait a minute, well, what's the chiddush? And the Shach is going to say, no, it's not a chiddush. There's no necessarily chiddush.
The chiddush would be that waiting after she sees the dam,
right?
That it's okay, that she doesn't have the problem, so that it would be okay for them to be together after the second time and there's no problem. Times in a row, it doesn't help. It's over. It's finished.
Right. But
that's senior.
No, it's not. I mean, everybody agrees with, in a sense. Just that the Shach says it's pashut. The Ramah is not telling us a new din over here. Ki'ilu rosa, the Shach says, kiloma ki'ilu avro verosa gimel pamim retzufim belo tevila. Devada belav ochi I efshar limtza shalosh pamim retzufim. Sharetzicha litva b'chol pam. She's seeing machmas tashmish right after the tefillah. So how could it ever be? Several weeks apart. Machmas, tashmish during the night of the tefillah. So the Ramah is, like you said, he's being machmer, and he's saying that this is equivalent to the din of what we've learned before, the roy machmas tashmish 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
On Monday, next Sunday, and the following Tuesday. They were together, that's it, 3 consecutive times. So, and here he's telling us, even though they were not technically one after another, in a short period of time, this happened to be Leil Tevila, several weeks apart perhaps. It's still the same thing. So that I can understand the Taz saying, we know that. It's 3 times in a row. So the Taz wants to say, but perhaps the Chiddush is that even though in between there could have been days where she was okay, because it was not Leil Tevila, supposedly, somehow. Still, the Ramah says, you're out. 3 times and you're out. The question is, how could they have been together? How is it possible? So I gave you one explanation. It could be that the Tevila after the Dam is not the same as the Tevila after the Veset. That's one possibility. And some say that they were actually together even though they were not supposed to be together. There's different explanations for that. Anyway, it looks like the Shach would say she's mutter. If she in fact was able to be with her husband and nothing happened in a scenario where that was possible, that 3 times would not disqualify her. Yeah.
So in some of the cases, only then we'd say
it could help her. It could prove a point. It could be. You know what I would say? It would therefore perhaps say that, you know what? The most maybe the Shach would say is she's a surah lev tevila after her veset. It could be that if she were to wait and not be with her husband on that night, it would be okay. It's just that night that's causing this. Who is to say that this will happen a few days afterwards? Right.
He's an issue.
Yeah.
Then being together. Are we not then? Well, then being together.
How is that?
In fact, we are, and therefore couldn't be with.
Right.
We're saying, despite that they were together.
Right.
And she saw blood.
Right.
Or no, she didn't see, and therefore it was okay. She did her to do that, so that she can be matter. In effect, we are kashering treif. We're encouraging the issue.
Yeah, but we did say that this happened before the 3 times.
No.
So in other words, what you're saying is, if after the 3 times,
No. After the first time.
No, on the first time
she sees blood.
Well, she has to go to Mikvaot. We say that one Leil Tevila, the Mechaber says that she should hold off because we're choishesh. So she's gonna comply with that. When is she gonna be with her husband? Not on the Leil Tevila. She's gonna be some other night. Then the next Leil Tevila, she was not with her husband, right? So she can be with her husband the following Leil Tevila. But what about in between? Okay, the problem appears to be just the Leil Tevila itself. Just that particular night is a problem. Doesn't mean that it's a problem later on. Right now, the bigger problem there are right now is it happened 3 times. It happened 3 times, and we know that's a form of 3 times. Whether it happened Monday, Thursday, Monday, or whether it happened Leil Tevila, Leil Tevila, Leil Tevila. So that's why the Taz was going to say, well, what did you tell us? It's different.
Then when is it that even if she was
3 Leil Tevilas in a row. No, right, anything after that. Anything after that, she's a surah just like a regular 3 times. So here the Taz said, well, what's the chiddush? That even if in between there were nights that were okay, and we saw that she didn't see dam machmas tashmish, which in itself is a question, how were they together?
That's the question.
Right, so I gave you 2 scenarios. Either it was be'isur, or that you explain that the tvila after the dam, tashmish, does not produce dam again.
My question.
She saw dam after
Right.
she went to the
Right.
So now she went to the mikvah. From here onwards, she usher till her next time she sees dam, the next time mikvah.
Yes,
How long
until
is she usher?
the next time.
Why is she usher on the 3rd day after having been to?
What happened the second time?
Well, first time she went to the mikvah, time to go to the mikvah. Then they were intimate and she saw blood a second time.
Right.
So now she's been to the time and she wasn't intimate. 3 days later, what's the issue?
Nothing, there's no problem. with
There's
that.
no issue.
There's no issue.
So the only thing would be usher now.
Right.
First of all, nothing would be usher. Now,
Right.
if she next time she goes, if they're intimate in between, then she has to go to the mikvah period.
Right.
Now she's again blood
She's
on the night where she mikvah.
right.
And then they're intimate, and then she gets again, and they're not intimate, and then she sees a 3rd time after going to the. So she saw 3 times consecutive from mikvah. Hadn't been to the mikvah on that day where they're permitted to be intimate.
Right.
So this counts as growth that she saw
Yes.
blood with respect to going intimate after mikvah.
Yes.
So that means what becomes forbidden for her is now being with her husband after going to the mikvah. In between having been to mikvah, the next day after she went and the next time she went to the mikvah, they're allowed for each other. After 3 times. So now they have to cover it.
That's the chiddush of the Ramah here. That's the chiddush. That's what the Taz wants to say, that he's machmir.
No, but that was on the second mikvah after she saw blood the night before. So that, I thought his was that even though this was not a regular going to the there was one necessitated by the blood she saw after.
Right, that's the way we were explaining it.
Then even then she
That's
would be
how
absent.
she was able to be in between. How would she be able to be intimate with her husband in between? In between the three Leil Tvilas, where would there be a possibility?
But we get that they're allowed to as long as going to the mikveh.
Oh, right.
So now she could have
Right.
been in between.
Right. So in those
Permissible.
right. So that's
In
the
a permitted way. But it doesn't take away the consecutive. And the question is, mikveh the first time, just regular mikveh. Then they
Right.
were intimate, she saw blood, she has to go to the mikveh.
yes.
So the question is, after when she goes to the mikveh again, is this time of going to the mikveh again part of the three?
Yeah, so that's what we were explaining, that's a form of permissible way according to some, right? That according to the way some explain it, that she could have been in a permissible way with her husband, and she did not see Damach Mashmish at that time. Okay, it comes along
Not quite. I mean, so that
Right.
get this right.
Sure.
She goes to the mikveh on a regular mikveh day.
Yeah,
That night she's with her husband. She's allowed to be. She sees blood. Now she's not into her husband at all till the next mikveh.
Right.
As assumed. And she goes to and she's been to. Now, in order for us to get to be into blood today,
right.
she has to be intimate that night again.
Yes,
So she's not ushered to be intimate with her husband after going to the mikveh for the second time, even though the time she saw blood.
she is. Remember, the second time she has to be choishish.
No, but the second time she's allowed to go with him. She saw blood the first time.
The second time
Now
she's
she
not
can
allowed
have
to.
3 days if she finds.
Oh, that was one of the questions. How does it happen that she saw 3 times, right?
The first night she went with her husband.
After a
And then the
tefillah.
whole point was that we said that why does he permit it after she saw him? It's not like somewhere else where already forbid after the first.
Yeah.
So we said after she saw the first time, the next time she goes to us, she's allowed to be with him. 4 weeks later. Regular.
She does. Well, she's
No, 4 weeks later. I'm
Why
talking about
four?
she goes to the mikveh again.
Right.
4 weeks.
sure.
She has a regular. So she went to the mikveh.
Right.
Now they were intimate that night, and she saw blood.
Right.
And then she'll go in, but they're not going to be intimate until after her next vest. Let's assume for argument's sake.
Okay.
So 30 days later, she goes to the mikveh again because it's her time to get her period.
Sure.
And that night, are they allowed to be intimate?
Yeah. If she on one occasion
On one occasion.
On one occasion, she was not with her husband, and it was a Leil Tvila, and she was not. She stayed away.
Oh, so between the first and the second, they had to
And
be
the,
one.
and the third, that was the Mechaber said. And she did not see. She went to the mikveh still, but they were not intimate that one
So
time.
after the first time it happened,
There has to be an interruption.
and they were not intimate.
They were not intimate. No.
So she goes to the mikveh,
And they're not intimate,
and
right.
then she doesn't see blood.
Right.
What's
Then-
the
then-
accomplishment? They weren't intimate, so she doesn't
Oh,
see
that
blood.
was the question that we asked.
Why
How
is that
how
the
could that be an akira? How could that uproot the problem
Yeah.
if she wasn't involved? How can we tell? So we said that we were lenient in this case, that as long as she didn't, in the Leil Tvila the second time around, she's permitted to be with her husband the third time around.
Okay, but in the
Because if not,
Yeah.
if you're going to apply this to be with her husband on Leil Tefillah, then it would be an Isser. Because they would not be allowed to be together. You're not allowed to test something if the test itself is.
Yeah,
but if you
that's
permitted
what-
it, we did.
yeah, but
Would be outlawed.
yeah,
She has to have some way of testing it without the.
right. So
there.
yeah, it's not really, it's not encouraging. I mean, that's the test. If we're only choishes right now. We're only choishes.
Right.
So the second time she sees nothing. So the third time she can be with her husband, the Leil Tvila, as normal.
And in between now, we're saying she can be as often as she wants,
Yeah, well,
provided it's not a male feet.
right. So that was the question here. How could that come about? In what scenario? That is it because the second Tvila that she'd see Machmas Tashmish, the second, she saw Dam Machmas Tashmish. Is it the second time she goes to the mikveh? That Tvila from that Dam will not be a problem because it's not her Veset. It could be she only sees the Dam after her Veset Tvila. It could be now if she goes to the mikveh again because she just saw Dam for some reason, it won't happen again. But from what I recall, these are some of the scenarios where they would be permissible to be with each other in between. Exactly. In other words, otherwise, how could they be in between? Yeah.
But all along, our problem is only on the because she's so blind.
Because imagine if you interpret that she cannot be with her husband until one Leil Tvila goes by, right? And you can only be with him next time around, the next Leil Tvila. In other words, you have to skip a Leil Tvila, right?
No, that'll be 37 days.
Or whatever it is, yeah. Right? Then that one time in between will be sufficient just to remove the chashash. To remove the chashash that she doesn't see dam machmas tashmish. Right? That was the machmas tashmish from the Leil Tvila.
Right.
Yeah, even though there was no tashmish. So that was the requirement of the mechaber, that we have one Leil Tvila that they're not together. Okay? The question is what happens, as the Ramah says, if it just happened that on 3 occasions consecutive. In other words, somehow it did occur that she saw 3 times, one after another. I mean, it just did.
You have to qualify
Forget we learned the mechaber for a moment.
But you have to qualify the one after another.
Yeah.
What's another meaning?
She went to the Leil Tvila once, Leil Tvila again, Leil Tvila
so
again.
one after another on Leil Tvila.
And Leil Tvila, right. So that's what the Taz says. I don't understand what the Ramah is telling us. That's equivalent, being 3 times like Monday, Thursday, Monday. I mean, we know that. I mean, what's the Chiddush? So the Taz wants to say, this could be a Chiddush if you say that she's still Asura, even though somehow in between they were able to be together. In that house, how were they able to be somehow in between? There's various opinions. So that's not really the question here. But I understand the Taz too. The Taz is saying, what's the Chiddush here? Don't we know that? On that, it appears to be, and I'm going to group it in again, it appears to be that the Shach would say no. But somehow they were in between together.
Now what is in between?
In between those 3 days, 3 times of Leil Tvila.
This in between has to be, it's not just some in between 2 Tvila.
Right. But it was a Tvila from Dam, not from the Veset. That's one scenario. She didn't see that it's not fair to say that she's royal Dam Machmas Tashmish, because it's a fact that she doesn't. She didn't. Now, would she be usher on the Leil Tvila? Yes. Because the Leil Tvila, apparently there's a combination of factors that says, you know what? Maybe it's not royal Machmas Tashmish, but on that particular night she can't be. Maybe that Leil Tvila does something to her.
Correctly.
Yeah.
The fact that she saw on the first night, she saw Dam,
Right.
prohibits her from being with her husband when she the next day because she just saw.
Right.
But if she just saw blood and she's not allowed to, it would not exempt her from having to distance on the next because of her best.
Exactly, because what are we concerned here right now is really mostly the Leil Tvila part. Right? Because apparently what happened was Leil Tvila and Dam Machmas Tashmish. Comes along the Ramon and says, yeah, but if it happened 3 times, 3 strikes and you're out.
And this second day,
Even though in between it was okay somehow, then maybe some other time it will be okay. But the Ramah seems to be saying a regular Poshet Din. 3 times, somehow. 3 consecutive Leil Tvilas, that's it. It's just like 3 consecutive days, or whatever you want to call it. So that we know. Comes along the Taz and says, yeah, but the Chiddush is that even though there were heter days, there were somehow days in between, they're not going to help her. And from the Shach, it seems to be that they will help her.
Just to be clear, if at any time from the core.
One second, let me just say one more thing. The Chavas Das says, even if the Bias were all 3 times in the same night, she would be Asur, according to the Ramah. According to the Shach, she would be Muteres other nights, just that night not, because it could be just that night. But anyway, yes.
The blood in between the regular.
Yeah.
She has to wait for the.
Well, it's 4 or 5 days for the blood, and then 7 cleans. There's a total of 11 or 12 days that she waits if it's not vested. Even if it's a ketem, a stain, a real stain, that is tameh, she has to wait the same amount of time. Yeah, so that's why we're saying some people have to go back and forth to them if they have this problem, the staining or seeing blood, machmastashmish or whatever. Anyway, just to finish up the Ramah, and we'll review it next time again. So that was the first part of the Ramah, which
I don't understand.
right.
Why would you have to?
It's a chumrah. It's a chumrah. You see, we talked about it in the very introduction of Hilchas Niddah, how Bnei Yisrael, Jewish daughters, took upon themselves certain chumras in order not to get confused between Dam Niddah and Dam Zova. Torah speaks about a woman who's a Zava, which is not her period, and a woman who's a Niddah. And there's different halachas according to the Torah of how long they need to wait and what they need to, and the type of tumah too. So it can be very confusing sometimes. And all the Jewish women therefore accepted upon themselves. And plus, on top of that, there was also takanas chachamim that they should accept a certain amount of days to cover all possibilities. And then stains is a separate thing. Because there's two opinions, whether you have to wait 11 or 2. In other words, 4, or everybody waits 7 clean days. But then there's a question of 4 versus 5. The average woman anyway sees blood, if she's young, 5 days. So the 4 will not always occur. But if it happens to be that a woman only sees 4 days and she's Sephardic, and she follows that opinion, she can begin her 7 clean days after 4 unclean. So it's a total of 11 instead of 12. The second part of the Ramah, just real quickly, speaks about, as I said before, a woman who gave birth. He says like this: she saw 3 times in the first bia after she gave birth, or if she saw 3 times after each leida, and in between she didn't see anything. Some say to be lenient with her husband. She's muteres for her husband. Why? Because then we can make the assumption that the reason why this happened to her is because of her weakness. Her body is weak as a result of giving birth. Because the sides of the womb somehow got bruised up. Therefore she sees close to her birth. And we say that it's probably because of the later the birth, just like we were assuming that it's as a result of the makkah. Obviously this is only if she already was intimate with her husband, ben later sarishoinos. But there was some heter bias after all the bias of Isra. But if she sees 3 times consecutive after the Leida, lo talinu beleida, then we will not assume that it's because of the Leida. The only thing that she can help her is to check herself out with a tube. Every time we say she needs a bdika shofar, she went ahead and did anyway. She was intimate with her husband and she did not see. That intimacy is even better examination for her than the bdikas hashoferes. Anyway, so what the Ramah is saying that there can be a scenario after birth that she did see 3 times and she was not supposed to perhaps be, but she was nevertheless with her husband. That in that case, for a second, that we don't since if it's 3 times consecutive after a Leida, we don't say that it's because of the Leida and it's a shoferes. But anyway. We'll talk about it next time again. It's just that after Leida there's more leniency than if it's not Leida. We can at least make some assumptions that it could be because her body is weak, that's why she saw it. All right, we'll look into it later again.